years, Bob Barker was America's favorite game show host. Then, in 1994, he called a press conference that shocked everyone. A model from The Price is Right had accused him of something terrible. She wanted $8 million to stay quiet. Instead of paying, Bob decided to confess. But what he admitted wasn't the whole story. The woman said there was much more. She used words like "daddy's room" and described things that made viewers sick. When asked directly about her claims, Bob's answer changed everything. Bob Barker was born on December 12, 1923, in Darrington, Washington, a small logging town with fewer than 1,000 people. His background was unique. His father was 1/4 Sioux, which made Bob 1/8 Sioux. Bob always took great pride in this. In interviews and public appearances, he often spoke about his Native American roots. He used his fame to support Native American causes and bring attention to their struggles. At a time when Native American identity was often ignored, Bob stood tall. He embraced his heritage and showed the world that it was something to be proud of. This courage set him apart and added another layer to his charm as one of America's most familiar faces on TV. Bob's early years were filled with challenges. When he was 8, his father died in a workplace accident. His mother, Matilda, moved them to the Rosebud Indian Reservation in South Dakota, where she became a school teacher. Life on the reservation was different. Bob was surrounded by Lakota traditions, languages, and stories. His mother got him involved in school events, pageants, and storytelling. From a young age, he learned how to speak in front of people. These experiences shaped his natural stage presence and taught him empathy and resilience. Bob would later say that his time on the reservation helped him connect with people from all walks of life. In 1939, at just 15, Bob went to an Ella Fitzgerald concert in Springfield, Missouri. That night changed his life. In the crowd, he met Dorothy Jo Gideon. They hit it off right away. Both loved music and adventure. Their teenage romance grew stronger through high school. In 1945, they got married. Bob was 21. Their marriage lasted 36 years until Dorothy Jo passed away in 1981. Bob always called her his best friend and moral compass. He never remarried. He said she was the only woman he truly loved. Bob's journey in education was just as impressive. He studied economics at Drury College in Springfield, Missouri, but World War II interrupted his studies. In 1943, Bob joined the U.S. Navy and trained as a fighter pilot. He was ready to fight in the Pacific, but the war ended before he saw combat. The Navy taught him discipline, leadership, and teamwork. After the war, he went back to Drury College. He graduated summa cum laude in 1947. This was no small feat, especially after serving in the military. Bob always stayed proud of his Drury roots. Bob and Dorothy Jo married on January 12, 1945. It was a simple ceremony during Bob's military leave. Wartime made everything uncertain, but their bond was strong. They cherished their anniversary every year, remembering their early days. Bob often said Dorothy Jo shaped his values and supported his career. Their love stood out in the entertainment world, where lasting marriages were rare. Bob's path to fame started in radio. While still in college, he worked at KTTS-FM in Springfield. He was a disc jockey, announcer, and news writer. This job helped him pay for school and sharpened his speaking skills. The station became the place where Bob's warm and clear voice began to win over audiences. He learned how to engage listeners, time his words perfectly, and think on his feet. In 1950, Bob and Dorothy Jo moved to California. That bold move opened new doors. Bob soon got his own radio show, The Bob Barker Show, in Burbank. The show ran for 6 years. It mixed music, interviews, and friendly talk. Bob's style was easygoing and fun. He made listeners feel like part of the show. This period helped him build the charm that would later make him a television star. Then came the call that changed everything. On December 21, 1956, at 12:05 p.m., Ralph Edwards, creator of Truth or Consequences, heard Bob on the radio. He was so impressed that he stopped his car and called Bob. Edwards offered him the job as host of the hit game show. That call made Bob a household name. It was a lucky break, but also a reward for Bob's hard work and natural talent. On New Year's Eve, 1956, Ralph Edwards introduced Bob to TV audiences. He told viewers, "The man we selected, we think has one of the brightest futures in television. Remember this name? You're going to hear a lot about him." And Edwards was right. Bob's warm style and quick wit made him a star. Bob hosted Truth or Consequences for 18 years. The show became the #1 daytime program during his run. It was full of surprises, stunts, and pranks. Bob had to improvise all the time. His ability to ad-lib made the show fun and lively. When Bob Barker walked onto the stage as host of The Price is Right on September 4, 1972, television would never be the same. Daytime TV back then was mostly soap operas and quiet quiz shows. But Barker's charm brought a fresh energy that grabbed viewers right away. Under him, The Price is Right became the longest-running game show in North America. By 2025, it had aired over 10,000 episodes. Barker stayed with the show for 35 years, from 1972 until 2007. That run beat even Johnny Carson's record on The Tonight Show. The show's famous "come on down" call and focus on regular people turned it into a household favorite. Barker's time as host earned him a spot in the Television Academy Hall of Fame and made him one of the most important figures in TV history. In September 1975, the show did something no game show had ever done. It became an hour long. Before that, game shows were only 30 minutes. The new format meant more players, bigger prizes, and new features like the Showcase Showdown and the Big Wheel. Barker's lively style kept viewers hooked for the full hour. Ratings soared as millions tuned in every day. Other shows tried to copy the idea, but none matched the success of The Price is Right. Another key part of Barker's era was Barker's Beauties. From 1972 until 2007, these spokesmodels showed off prizes and became stars themselves. Janice Pennington and Diane Parkinson, for example, became famous across America. But behind the scenes, things were not as perfect as they seemed. In the 1990s and 2000s, some beauties spoke out about harassment and unfair treatment. Holly Holstrom's long court fight with Barker nearly ruined her financially, but also helped shine a light on how women were treated in the industry. Their bravery helped change workplace rules and sparked early conversations that would grow into the Me Too movement. Barker's time as host wasn't just about fun and games, it was about giving too. Over 35 years, he handed out more than $200 million in prizes. That incredible generosity earned him a Guinness World Record as the most generous host in television history. The prizes ranged from cash wins as high as $210,000 to luxury cars like an Audi R8 worth $150,000 to $300. The show needed 3 warehouses to store everything, and more than 65,000 contestants played during his time. Barker didn't just give on TV. Through his DJ&T Foundation, named for his wife and mother, he donated millions to animal charities and helped fund SPA and neuter clinics. And of course, Barker's famous closing words left a mark beyond television. Starting in the early 1980s, he ended each episode with "Help control the pet population. Have your pets spayed or neutered." That simple message turned into a national cause. He gave millions to groups like PETA, funded clinics across the country, and even got CBS to ban fur prizes on the show. Clinics inspired by him, like Operation Pets in New York, performed over 120,000 SPA and neuter surgeries. Bob Barker's television career broke records that no one else has come close to. He won 19 Daytime Emmy Awards. 14 of those were for outstanding game show hosts. That's more than any host in television history. His winning streak began in 1982, when he took home his first award for The Price is Right. From that point on, he kept winning almost every year. In 1990, with his fifth win, he passed the previous record holder, Peter Marshall. Barker didn't stop there. By the time he retired in 2007, he had earned 14 Emmys for hosting. No one has beaten that record. Besides those, he won 4 more Emmys as executive producer of The Price is Right. In 1999, he received a Lifetime Achievement Award. His Emmy success showed just how much he shaped daytime TV. No other game show host has had that kind of impact on American television, but Barker wasn't just about awards. He was also a man of strong principles. For 20 years, he hosted the Miss USA and Miss Universe pageants. That ended in 1988. Barker quit after a major disagreement over animal rights. The pageants wanted the 10 finalists to wear real fur coats worth $250,000 during a live show. Barker refused. He said, "There's no way to make a fur coat without causing pain to one of God's creatures." In 1987, after tough talks, fake fur was used instead. But the following year, no deal was reached. So Barker walked away from a job he had held for 2 decades. His stand shocked the TV world. He didn't stop there. He banned fur coats as prizes on The Price is Right. That rule still exists today. Barker's decision made national headlines and helped shift how people talked about animal rights. Behind his confident TV persona, Barker carried deep personal pain. In 1981, his world changed forever. His wife, Dorothy Jo Gideon, died from lung cancer at just 57. They had been married for 36 years. They were high school sweethearts who eloped in 1945 while Barker was on Navy leave. When Dorothy Jo passed, Barker fell into deep depression. His half-brother remembered how different he became, saying Bob wasn't himself for 2 or 3 years. Barker threw himself into work to cope, but he admitted he was never the same. He never remarried. He said simply, "She was my wife. She was the love of my life." In her memory, he founded the DJ&T Foundation in 1995 to support SPA and neuter clinics. Her loss changed both his personal life and his path as an activist. 2 years after Dorothy Jo's death, Barker met Nancy Burnett at an animal adoption event in 1983. That meeting led to a 40-year relationship filled with friendship, shared causes, and mutual respect. Nancy was a strong voice for animal rights, just like Barker. Together, they worked on causes like Donkeyland and United Activists for Animal Rights. Barker proposed to Nancy many times. He even secretly had a prenup written up, but Nancy always said no. She often joked, "I just don't want to be married, especially not to you." They lived in separate homes but shared a deep connection and a common mission. Then came a scandal that shocked America. Between 1989 and 1991, Barker, the beloved host of The Price is Right, secretly began an affair with Diane Parkinson. She had been working on the show for 18 years. At that time, she earned just about $2,000 a week, even after all those years. Barker was still grieving. His wife had died in 1981. What started as a private relationship turned into a nightmare. Parkinson said Barker forced her into sex by threatening her job. She claimed this began in late 1989. She went along out of fear. Barker later called it just sex and said it lasted about a year and a half. The revelations crushed his image as daytime TV's kind grandfather. Diane's claims were horrifying. She said Barker made her call him Daddy and would summon her to his dressing room, which he called Daddy's room. She described how he demanded oral sex between tapings and that she complied to protect her job. Afterward, She said he would nap like nothing had happened. She felt like a toy used and tossed aside. The stress made her ill. She developed a bleeding ulcer. By 1993, she left the show. She blamed her health problems on the trauma she endured. In 1994, things exploded. Parkinson threatened to sue unless Barker paid her $8 million to stay silent. The demand was huge, but it reflected how serious the accusations were. Barker refused to pay. The story hit the headlines. Parkinson's move wasn't just about money. She wanted dignity. She wanted him to answer for what she said he did. The threat of a lawsuit shook the TV world. It forced people to look closer at what went on behind the scenes of a show families loved. Barker made a shocking choice. Instead of paying, he called a press conference on May 27, 1994. He admitted to the affair. He downplayed it as a little hanky-panky between two adults. He said it was all consensual and that Parkinson had started it. According to him, she even told him he needed some hanky-panky in his life. He swore he never forced her into anything. His confession stunned everyone. It was a smart move. It weakened Parkinson's case. In April 1995, something heartbreaking happened. After fighting in court and in the media for almost a year, Diane Parkinson gave up her lawsuit. People were shocked when she announced she couldn't go on. She said, "Bob Barker has beaten me into submission." Her doctor had warned that the stress was destroying her health. She was battling aggravated anemia and other serious problems caused by the emotional strain. On top of that, the judge fined her and her lawyers $2,100 for not disclosing some documents. Even though Diane still stood by everything she had said about coercion and harassment, she had no choice but to walk away. Bob Barker and CBS had far more money and legal power. The case ended suddenly, showing just how hard it was for women to stand up to powerful men at that time. Diane's fight didn't just cost her career. It damaged her health and stole her peace of mind. It was a sad example of how much it could cost to speak out. Right after Diane dropped the case, Bob Barker spoke out. He didn't hold back. He said, "If there were any truth to the outrageous charges she made against me, and if there were any chance she could win any money in court, she never would have dismissed the lawsuit." Barker called the whole thing a shakedown. He said, Diane only sued him because he refused to pay her off. He dismissed her health problems and emotional pain as excuses. His lawyers also pointed out that they had turned down 3 settlement offers from Diane's side. Barker painted himself as someone with nothing to hide. Later that same year, in October 1995, another storm hit. Holly Holstrom, who had been a model on The Price is Right for 19 years, was fired. The official reason was that she had gained 14 pounds because of medication for a hormonal problem. They said she couldn't model swimsuits on TV anymore. Holly explained that the weight gain was temporary. She even asked for time off during the summer break to lose it. And she did lose the weight before filming started again. But it didn't matter. She was still fired. Holly sued. She claimed she was let go because of medical condition discrimination, as well as sex and age discrimination. Her case raised big questions about how women's bodies were judged on TV and how health conditions could be used as an excuse to fire someone. The case dragged on for 10 long years. In the end, Holly was declared the winner, and Bob Barker had to pay her legal fees. But Holly said the weight excuse wasn't the real reason. She believed it was all about revenge. Back in 1993, when Diane Parkinson sued Barker for $8 million over sexual harassment, Barker had asked Holly to lie for him. He wanted her to go on TV and in interviews to defend him and discredit Diane. He even told her to change how she remembered things. Holly refused. She wouldn't lie. She believed that's why Barker wanted her gone. She said the weight issue was just a cover for firing someone who wouldn't back him up. Other employees who didn't support Barker were also pushed out. It painted a dark picture of a workplace where loyalty meant more than honesty. The legal fight between Holly and Barker turned into a long, painful war. When Holly sued for wrongful termination, Barker fought back hard. He even sued her for libel and slander when she spoke out. But he dropped that suit just 48 hours before trial. That left Holly stuck with huge legal bills. The court ruled in her favor and ordered Barker to cover those costs. But he didn't stop. His lawyers kept appealing and filing motions. The case went on for nearly 10 years. The goal seemed clear: to wear her down, to make it so expensive and stressful that she would quit. But Holly didn't give up. In 2005, she won a multi-million-dollar settlement. It was a victory, but one that came at a huge personal cost. The years of fighting had taken a heavy toll. Deborah Curling worked for The Price is Right for 24 years. In October 2007, just 4 months after Bob Barker retired, she filed a shocking lawsuit. Deborah said the show had once been a pleasant place to work, but everything changed after she testified in another woman's wrongful termination case against Barker. After that, she claimed she was demoted, pushed into a hostile backstage job, and finally forced to quit. She said Barker created an atmosphere of terror. Black employees and contestants were treated unfairly. If you spoke up or complained, you could get fired. Deborah accused Barker and the producers of racial discrimination, sexual harassment, and mental abuse. Because of her long career and the timing of her lawsuit, right after Barker's retirement, the case stunned the public and cast a dark shadow over Barker's legacy. Bob Barker had signed a 5-year contract extension in 2006, but less than a year later, in June 2007, he suddenly retired after 35 years. Officially, Barker said he wanted to leave before he got old, but many people believed a different story. Deborah's lawsuit came just 4 months after his retirement. Some thought the network wanted Barker out before her accusations became public. Unlike other accusers, Deborah refused to sign a non-disclosure agreement. That made her claims even more dangerous for the show's image. While Barker denied being forced out, the sudden retirement right after signing a new contract, and then the lawsuit made people wonder if CBS and the producers had pushed him aside to limit the damage. The trouble didn't end when Barker left. In September 2011, Lanisha Cole, who had joined the show in 2003 as one of the models, sued producers Michael G. Richards and Adam Sandler, not the comedian. She accused them of sexual harassment, wrongful termination, and even false imprisonment. Lanisha said the problem started in December 2009. Richards stopped talking to her and instead favored another model. Things got worse in September 2010. Sandler allegedly burst into her dressing room while she was topless and in a sheer thong bikini. He yelled at her about not wearing a microphone, something she said wasn't her fault. The humiliation was so bad that she had a physical reaction and needed medical help while on set. When no one took her complaints seriously, she resigned and filed formal charges. Her case showed that the toxic culture at The Price is Right didn't stop with Barker's exit. The abuse just continued under new bosses. There's another dark side to these cases: the use of non-disclosure agreements, or NDAs. Many former employees and models who accused the show of abuse, discrimination, or harassment ended up signing NDAs as part of their settlements. These agreements kept them silent. The public never learned the full truth about what went on behind the scenes. Some settlements were reportedly worth millions, not for the claims themselves, but to buy silence. Critics say this culture of secrecy let the bad behavior continue. The push to ban NDAs in such cases is growing. People want more transparency, so future victims can be protected and toxic workplaces exposed. But not every part of Bob Barker's legacy is clouded in scandal. He was deeply committed to animal rights. One of his greatest gifts was over 400 acres of land in Moreno Valley, California. He donated this land to Donkeyland, a sanctuary for wild and injured burros. The preserve eventually grew to about 2,000 acres. It became a safe home for wild donkeys and millions of other small creatures. His partner, Nancy Burnett, called this his greatest living legacy. The sanctuary helps animals heal and return to their herds. Bob also gave millions to animal charities. Bob Barker's death on August 26, 2023, at 99 years old, truly marked the end of an era in American television. He died at his home in Los Angeles. His companion of 40 years, Nancy Burnett, was by his side. Their bond had started after his wife, Dorothy Jo Gideon, passed away in 1981. From that day on, Nancy became a steady force in his life. Bob's cause of death was listed as Alzheimer's disease, something he had kept private for years. His death certificate also mentioned hypertension, hypothyroidism, and hyperlipidemia. These showed that Bob had quietly fought many health issues during his final years. Even with these struggles, Bob stayed sharp. Nancy shared that he kept up conversations and even did simple bedside exercises until just 2 months before he passed. After his death, Bob was laid to rest at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Hollywood Hills. His grave sits beside Dorothy Jo's, showing how deeply connected they remained. Bob and Dorothy Jo never had children, and Bob never remarried. Instead, he poured his heart into animal rights. Nancy stood by him in this too. She helped manage his care and served as co-executor of his estate. Together, they made sure his legacy stretched far beyond the TV screen. When he died, fans and colleagues mourned deeply. His publicist called him the world's greatest MC who ever lived. That's how Bob Barker will always be remembered.